The cutting torch died halfway through the hull plate, and Rennick Aiyu felt the salvage hauler shudder as something inside the derelict woke up. "Back off the frame," she said into her helmet mic. That was not us. Below her, clamped to the corpse of a Vartaan heavy cruiser, 4 other suits froze against the black. The cruiser hung in the discard corridor beyond Ceres, one of hundreds the Vartaan had ejected here over the last 6 years. They did not scuttle their obsolete warships. They opened the drive bays, vented the crews to newer hulls, and pushed the dead metal into human space the way a household drops trash at a curb. The message was clear enough without translation. Take it. It is beneath us. Rennick had been taking it for 6 years. Power spike in the aft spine, said Delu Marsh from the hauler bridge. Something is drawing from a cell we did not find. How much? Enough to move a gun. Rennick pushed off the plate and let her tether reel her along the cruiser's flank. The hull was scarred in a pattern she had learned to read. Vartaan ships were built in nested shells, each layer independently powered, so that a breach in one never bled the next. Elegant, expensive, it also meant that when they threw a ship away they only killed the outermost shell. Every derelict in the corridor still had sleeping hearts buried under 3 meters of ablative ceramic. The Vartaan knew that. They simply did not believe anyone could reach them. Their doctrine held that a warship without its command lattice was a rock, and the lattice was the one thing they always took home. Rennick's people had spent 6 years proving that a rock could be taught to think again. Delu, cut me a path to the aft cell before it finishes charging. You want me to shoot the ship you are standing on. I want you to open it. The hauler's mining laser drew a white line across the cruiser's spine, and ceramic boiled off in a slow gray fan. Rennick went in through the wound. Inside, the corridors were the wrong shape for human bodies, tall and narrow, built for something that walked with its shoulders forward. Her lamp found frost on every surface, and a Vartaan maintenance drone folded against a bulkhead, dormant, waiting for orders that had stopped coming when the crew left. She had seen 1,000 of them. She had rebuilt 600 of them into cargo loaders, hull welders, and reactor tenders for the yards at Ceres. The power reading came from a compartment sealed behind a pressure door that had never been opened. Rennick put her palm against it and felt the vibration through her glove. Not a capacitor charging. A cycle. Something running. Delu, this cell is not dead stock. It is on a schedule. Meaning what? Meaning they did not forget it. They left it. She cut the door. Behind it, a Vartaan officer sat strapped into a monitoring cradle, alive, kept alive. The frost on his chest plate breaking and reforming with each slow breath. Around him, screens showed the discard corridor, and every human salvage crew working it, and the traffic patterns of the Ceres yards. 6 years of watching. 6 years of counting exactly how many of their cast-off hulls had gone into human hands, and where each one had gone. He opened his eyes and looked at her without surprise. "You are the one from the harvest at Kellan Shoal," he said. His translator gave him a dry, patient voice. "You took the ventral batteries. You mounted them on a mining tug. I did. 268 hulls," he said. "That is what you have. I have watched you take every one. My people believed you were scavengers. I told them you were assembling something." He shifted in the cradle, and Rennick saw the feed lines running into his arms. The machinery of 6 years of deliberate waiting. They did not believe me, so I stayed to be certain. And now you are certain. Now I am certain, and my signal fires in 6 hours, and then the corridor closes. His eyes went to the screens. You cannot cross the distance to your yards and disperse in 6 hours. You cannot hide 268 hulls. I am sorry. I did admire the work. Rennick looked past him at the screens. He had mapped every hull. He had tracked every tow. And every single one of those tracks ended at the Ceres yards, where the hulls went in and, according to his data, never came out. Because they never came out whole. "Delu," Rennick said. "Wake the corridor." "All of it?" The Vartaan officer's head turned. What his screens did not show, because his screens watched the outside of things, was that the yards had not been storing the hulls. For 6 years the yards had been stripping the nested shells, seating each derelict with a human command lattice built from cargo freighter navigation cores, and pushing the hull back out into the discard corridor to sit exactly where the Vartaan had left it. The corridor was not a junkyard, it was a parking apron. Every rock he had counted was already awake, already crewed by skeleton teams living in pressure tents welded inside dead gun decks, already holding station and waiting for a reason. 268 of them lit their drives at once. The officer watched his own screens fill with ignition blooms, one after another, in a spreading wave that ran the length of the corridor and did not stop. Ships his people had personally condemned. Guns his people had personally judged obsolete, which were obsolete only against Vartaan armor, and which had never once been aimed at Vartaan armor. "You cannot crew them," he said. "You do not have the population. We do not crew them the way you do." Rennick was already moving to the cradle, already reading the feed lines, already seeing the transmitter housing fused into the wall behind him. "You put 4,000 aboard a cruiser. We put 9. The rest is loaders. Loaders are not soldiers. They are now." She could cut the transmitter. She could take him out of the cradle and back to Ceres and let the corridor stay quiet for another 6 years. Keep harvesting. Keep building. Let the Vartaan keep believing they were throwing scraps to animals. 6 years of invisibility, or 1 hour of being seen. Rennick cut the feed lines instead and left the transmitter whole. "You are letting it fire," the officer said. "I am letting them look." She hauled him out of the cradle and out through the wound in the spine, and behind her the transmitter sent its signal on schedule, and the Vartaan response fleet arrived at the mouth of the discard corridor 4 hours later, expecting to find salvage crews and mining tugs. They found their own dead ships coming at them bow first in a formation no Vartaan doctrine had ever needed to counter, because Vartaan doctrine had never imagined fighting the shells it discarded. The nested armor they had built to survive breaches held perfectly against their own weapons. The gun mounts they had condemned as underpowered fired inward, into drive bays and sensor rings and the soft joints between shells, places their designers had never armored, because no enemy was supposed to know they existed. The Vartaan broke formation in the first 20 minutes. They did not regroup. Ships that had been ordered forward turned laterally and burned for open space, and the fleet's command carrier stopped transmitting orders entirely and simply ran, trailing atmosphere, from a wound put there by a battery Rennick had personally rebuilt at Kelon Shoal. 6,000 Vartaan crew went dark in the corridor. 268 hulls came home damaged and did not stop coming home. Afterward, the discard corridor was empty for the first time in 6 years. Rennick stood in the Ceres observation ring with the Vartaan officer beside her, unrestrained, because there was nowhere left for him to go. Outside, the yards were quiet. No new hulls drifted in from the dark. No towing crews went out. He watched the empty corridor for a long time. Then he turned away from the window and asked, very quietly, what humans did with the ships they no longer wanted. Rennick did not answer him. She went down to the yards, where the crews were already cutting into the returning hulls, and picked up a torch and started again on the next one.